Welcome you all. We're going to be in kind of slide mode today. So I'm the one speaking in the little box over here. My name is Patricia Garza. I am the NETTEN Program Director here at the Network of Ensemble Theaters. And I'll do a brief visual description for those who need that support. I'm a Latinx human with salt and pepper hair and I got new big square glasses. I was like, give me the biggest you have. That was my directive to my eye doctor. And I'm in my office, my home office, with books behind me and golden curtains. I am wearing a very dark teal shirt, a button up with some blue dangling earrings. I prefer they, them pronouns. And I would just want to, as always, start our time together by acknowledging the Indigenous lands on which we are playing, living, sharing space today. Our traditional stewards. I am personally zooming in from Tongva Quiche land in East Los Angeles, California. So I am starting my day with you all from Tongva Quiche lands. And if you would like to participate in land acknowledgement today and you need a resource, I'm just going to drop a link in the chat here for you. And again, this isn't a definitive resource, but it's a great starting place if you want to look up the Indigenous lands on which you reside. So I encourage you to do that in the chat with us today. All right, I'm going to do a quick access logistic check-in. We are recording, so you heard our announcement. So we are going to put this link on our website and our YouTube channel later, hopefully tomorrow is our goal. We'll see how that works. The chat is enabled. I do have it up. I may not get to it right away, so I have support from Nicole here today. So if you have stuff, you can put it in the chat if you have any tech needs. And if you need transcription, you should be seeing a live transcription on the bottom of the screen there. If you want to disable that, you just have to click that button, and then you can turn it off if for some reason that's distracting, or if you're not seeing it, you can turn it on as well from the bottom ribbon there. All right, so hopefully you know why you're here, but if you don't, we're talking about the NETTEN program, specifically deep diving into the travel grants today. So this is just an agenda overview of what we're going to go over. Try to keep it to a tight hour. I also am happy to stay past the hour if folks have very specific questions that they want to ask me directly. We'll do welcome, hello, welcome, check, check. We'll talk about NET in general if you're new to NET or interested in joining NET. Talk about the NETTEN program in general, and then deep dive into travel grants. Application, we'll look specifically at the narrative questions together, talk that through. Nicole has a wonderful video she made that she'll share with you. That's more the logistics, because we do have a new application. So just so folks know, it's not the old application. So I just want folks to know the questions are pretty similar, but the interface is different. And then we'll do a Q&A, because sometimes, you know, your questions are questions other people have too. So it's good to share. So I'll just kick us off by saying who's in the space today. So I already introduced myself and my colleague Nicole. I don't know if you want to give a little wave. Yay, our finance and operations manager is also here. And Nicole, I just have to give Nicole major props. She created this application and it looks pretty darn good. So props to you. And this is actually our shared email here. So when you email NETTEN, you'll get me, but you also get Nicole and also Alicia, our executive director. So if for some reason I'm not responding right away, Nicole may chime in, Alicia may chime in. So I just want to let you know that is a joint email that all of our team gets. So if you need something for the application, I really recommend, instead of emailing us individually, to email the NETTEN email. Quicker response rate. Just to share our mission here, we are a national community of artists and arts organizations dedicated to collaborative creation. I hope that's why you're here. NET exists to propel the ensemble theater practice to the forefront of culture and society. It's really our goal, it's our mission. We link a diverse array of ensembles and practitioners to one another and the performing arts field. We encourage collaboration and knowledge sharing, and we'll talk about that today through the travel grants, and dissemination. We are committed to the advancement of the ensemble form And we strive to bring about change in the world beyond ourselves through the transformative power of collaborative theater and ensemble practice. We support bold artistic and civic experiments and that aim to heighten the impact of excellence of ensemble theater. So I think I've said ensemble about 20 times. So I hope you know what NET's about now. And these are kind of our three areas that we work in. First is advocacy. So NET organizes and promotes ensemble theater making as a distinct element of theater and performance. So we really advocate for ensemble creators and arts organizations, ensembles. And we amplify that collective voice locally and nationally. NET advocates for cultural policy discussions for ensembles and ensemble practice, and we serve as resources both to private foundations, government funders, and educational institutions, and the field in general. So advocacy is a big part of what we do. We also build knowledge. So a tremendous amount of knowledge exists within our membership, our individuals, our companies. So we collect, we organize, and we distribute this community learning to deepen artistic investigations and organizational innovations. And we're going to talk about that today in terms of our sharebacks. NET convenes our members, and we offer professional development opportunities to enhance and share field knowledge. So things like our grant making program, but we also have other programs as well. And then we sustain ensembles. So through our programs and our initiatives, NET strives to secure the future of ensemble theater making and ensemble practice by supporting the growth, health, and vibrancy of ensemble companies, artists, and practitioners. We provide opportunities for collaboration, exchange, peer knowledge sharing, and mentorship to improve ensembles' organizational and artistic capacity building. So we'll talk about that today too, both administrative and artistic. A little bit about the NETTEN program. So that was all about NET in general as the organization. If you're not a member, we still are a pay what you decide right now, and you're welcome to join to be eligible for this funding. Maybe Nicole, you could drop a link into the chat for the membership webpage for folks who are not members and are curious or want to become members. But in terms of talking specifically about NETTEN, just in case folks don't know what NETTEN stands for, I did it for a long time until I started with NET. I was like, I just knew it as an acronym. It stands for the Travel and Exchange Network, so NETTEN. So with NETTEN, as it says on the screen here, we prioritize relationship building and knowledge sharing. These grants are really intended to create new opportunities for reciprocal exchanges and with peers and colleagues to share information, to share techniques, to get inspired. Where are the grants to get inspired? To share expertise, share performances among ensembles, and then to strengthen the work of individual ensembles and the field as a whole, and also individual ensemble practitioners. So NETTEN grants encourage kind of open-ended explorations that don't necessarily have a pressure cooker of a finished product. And that's really rare. We see a lot of grants out in the field that are project specific, and these are really about open-ended exploration without that final deadline looming. It can include a project, but doesn't have to. And then it's designed to be flexible, and we'll talk about that a little bit today, but there could be a wide range for what these grants are awarded to. And some goals of NETTEN are really to build the field by strengthening existing relationships and initiating new ones. So we'll talk about that with travel grants, because it's really about initiating relationships or further developing an existing one. And then increasing ensembles' capacity to host and travel. We know that traveling particularly costs a lot of funds, and it's difficult at times. And so we want to increase that capacity through this funding. We want to support both artistic and administrative development. So your grant could be in either arena. We want to increase the financial well-being of ensembles and ensemble practitioners. And then we'll talk about this again, but the share back, but creating a library of resources to share with the field. And of course, if this is interesting to you, This grant can also be to expand cross-sector and cross-discipline partnerships. So for example, collaborations with those outside of the arts or from the arts disciplines or crossing genres, right? And of course, always very important, we want this to reflect NET's values of equity and inclusion by supporting a diverse range of grantees, projects, and activities. And we'll go over the equity and funding statement and accountability statement in a little bit. That's a little snapshot of NETTEN. This is, I always like to give folks this image because it's so helpful. These are the 3 buckets in which we fund NETTEN. So we're going to talk today about travel grants here. So that's this circle over here, this yellow circle over here. So this is really about, new relationships or furthering an existing relationship. We already just closed our exchange grant here, and we will have our continuation grant available to previous exchange grantees coming up later this year. So I just like to see how these are all in relationship with one another. And over the course of the NETTEN life cycle, we've actually awarded more than $1.1 million in grant funding. And we've received well over probably now, over 1,500 applications over the course of the NETTEN program. So it's a really successful program for us. We're so thrilled that we could support the ensemble community in this way. And we have currently awarded over 350 grants, including continuing our funding throughout the pandemic. We never stopped funding. We actually just changed our models and offered kind of more emergency mini grant proposals, virtual grant proposals for people to continue working, because that's really what we heard people wanted through this time. If you are curious about the numbers, I'm going to put a link in the chat here if you want to go deep. Sometimes, number nerds, I love them. We have some statistics on our website if you want to even go deeper into who we funded and where. It's not completely up to date. Nicole and I are doing our best. We're doing our best, just like everybody else. But we're hoping to update it within the year. It's a pretty accurate snapshot, though. This is a great graphic. Again, exchange is closed for review, but this graphic is great if you're kind of like, oh, which one should I apply for? So we're really looking at the left of this graphic for today. But this kind of just walks you through, am I eligible to apply for a grant? So are you a NET member in good standing? Good standing means that you have a current membership with NET. Again, we're pay what you decide right now. So we are trying to make this very accessible for folks. So you just make sure and Nicole already put that link into the chat for where you can join or renew. So maybe your membership has expired, so you would need to renew it to be eligible, or maybe you haven't joined yet and you want to join us. Welcome, we welcome you. So you're in good standing, yes. Are you any of these membership categories? So we'll talk about this again, but travel grants are open to all NET member categories. So individual, students, affiliate, and ensembles, travel grant, and then you select a partner here. So just want to make sure this little handy dandy graphic is available. And again, exchange grants are closed. We just closed those out. We have not announced them. We're in panel review right now. So now we're going to kind of move a little bit closer to travel grants and really talk about the type of partners that would be ideal for this opportunity. So for travel grants, they're open to both US and international partners. So that's great. That's a difference between exchange and travel. It has to be outside of your current city and region. They are called travel grants. So I just want to say that out loud. It can be virtual. So we'll talk about that when I talk about eligible activities. The partners do not need to be NET members. You need to be, as the applicant, a NET member, but your partner does not need to be a NET member. Again, new relationship or furthering developing an existing relationship. And they can range from individual artists. So it could be one-on-one. If you're an individual member, you want to work with another individual artist. It could be I'm an individual artist, I want to work with an ensemble. It could be ensemble to ensemble. It could also be, again, cross-sector or cross-discipline. Maybe you're a dance company, dance ensemble, and you want to work with more of a theatrical ensemble. Or maybe you don't want to work with the arts at all. You want to work with maybe a science and technology partner that's informing your practice. The key thing here is that folks, your partner needs to be outside of your ensemble. So we'll talk about this again with eligible activities, but we know during the pandemic, people have kind of scattered to the wind. People are living in different places, but if they're still part of your ensemble, even if they're outside of your current city and region, it's not an eligible partner. So I just want to say that again, and I'm happy to clarify if that's not clear. And we'll talk about this in a little bit again. Here are the key dates coming up for both travel and continuation, so you can see them side by side. So our application is already open. So please, please, please take a look. It's been open for about a week now. They are due April 8th at midnight, PST, 11:59 p.m. PST. We cannot accept late proposals because we just have such a load of them to process. It's really difficult for us when we get stuff past the deadline. So please, with grace, we honor that. And the project period, this is when your project activities would need to happen within June 1st, so this summer, to November 30th of this year. So travel grants are all this year. So I just want to say that again, because I've been getting a lot of questions around this. So your activities, your actual grant activities would need to take place between June 1st and November 30th. Then I just put here the continuation grant cycle just for reference. I'm not going to go over that. We'll have a separate continuation grant info session. I also want to say for folks who have applied for exchange grants, the notifications for those, we're aiming to get them out the week of March 18th. So you should hear back if you do not receive an exchange grant and you want to then submit for a travel grant, if you do not receive that grant and want to apply. So you should know before April 8th, before the deadline. You should have a couple of weeks to put together your proposal. So hope that's helpful. We try to design that so that way, if folks were kind of like, well, I want to wait and see if I get the exchange grant because you're only eligible for one NETTEN grant per cycle. So we want to make sure that we scaffolded the date so that way you can apply for a travel grant if you do not receive an exchange grant. So we'll make sure to prioritize those notifications to you all. All right, I'm going to take a pause and stop sharing for a quick second just to see if there's any questions on what I just shared in terms of just the brass tacks of NETTEN before I really go deep on travel. Great, thank you, Hannah. So Hannah asked, if the project cannot take place before November, do you anticipate opening another NETTEN cycle? Currently, we do not have plans to open another NETTEN cycle, but you never know. But currently, this particular funding, we're going to close out with the continuation grants. Other just clarifying questions? Great, thank you. Thank you for your language. Yeah. So just another question coming in from the chat. So just read it out loud for the recording here. So you're both an individual member, artist member with NET. Okay, so you're an individual NET member, but you're also part of an ensemble with NET. Great. So our team for our ensemble and collaborators is looking to apply for a continuation grant. And I'm hoping to this travel grant as an individual artist. So that is not a conflict. So you would apply for the travel grant as an individual member and then not as your ensemble. Now, if it was the ensemble, yes, that would be a conflict. Because you have two separate memberships. Yeah. Thank you for that question. Great. All right, I'm going to go back in, but feel free to throw stuff in the chat and Nicole and I can best answer as we move along. Great questions, though. Great questions. Let me just pull over my chat here. Great. All right, travel grant deep dive. So these grants range from $500, oh my God, $200, $500 to $2,000. Activities, again, can take place in the US or internationally. They are awarded twice a year. So our first round was actually called for this grant cycle, was actually called Fall Virtual Exploration Grants. So that was technically the travel grants. We just took the pot of money and we made them virtual due to the continuation of the Omicron variant. We really felt like we wanted to make sure people were still working safely. So we actually converted the fall travel grant cycle into the virtual exploration grant cycle. And now we're back with the spring travel grants. So that's the two travel grant rounds. So again, we support activities to initiate new relationships or further develop existing relationships with travel grants. So these are the goals. I already said this, but just flashing these up again. What are the goals of the program? We want to strengthen those relationships. We want to remove the barrier of distance and travel. We want to potentially inspire people to do cross-sector, cross-discipline partnerships, not necessary, but it's always exciting when we get those in. And just explore. Again, I go back to that inspiration. When do we have a chance to think about new ideas, think about new methodologies, new training ways? So this is a perfect grant for that. If you really are trying to, as an artist or as an ensemble, really start thinking about innovation or just refresh yourself. This is our eligibility. This is all on the website. So I'm not flashing anything you cannot read on the website. But again, you need to be a good member in good standing. All categories, this is open for, so ensembles, individuals, students, and affiliates. An ensemble or an affiliate can apply on behalf of one of its members. So Hannah, this is why I was saying is a little tricky. Like if your ensemble applied, but it was for you, Hannah, and they wanted to apply for continuation grant, no. But since you are an individual member, you could apply under that. This is I always love to highlight this. We don't require 501 status. So this is pretty rare within the grant field. So I was just give thumbs up to NET on this. But this is important because we did have this question pop up with exchange grants. The applicant receiving the grant funds must have a US address. Even if you're going international, you have to be based in the US to receive funds. So it's super, super important. And we check all this when the applications come in, but just make sure your address that you're using is in the US here. And each round, so again, the fall virtual exploration rounds do not count because those were what we consider emergency funding. So we're not counting that as like an official round. So each round applicants may submit only one application. So you can't submit multiple applications, but say you're listed in somebody else's application as the partner, that's okay. So say for example, me, Patricia is applying and I want to work with Nicole, but Hannah also wants to work with Nicole. That's okay, you know, that's okay that she's listed in multiple applications, but Nicole couldn't apply like multiple times or be the lead applicant multiple times. And again, we've said this, but may not receive more than one NETTEN grant. So again, this goes more to the exchange. Like if you're awarded an exchange grant, you also cannot receive a travel grant. We are not counting the fall virtual exploration grants. Again, those were more emergency funding, pandemic funding, so that does not count. Applicants may not have outstanding reports. This is super important. We do track reporting, and currently all reporting is due except for the fall virtual exploration grant. So all reporting must be turned in, including the mini grants, including the summer virtual exploration grants, which I am still processing because we had over 100 grantees. So yay for summer. But as long as that report is in, you should be good to go. I may not have like officially gotten back to you, but I will before the deadline for sure. And just keep that in mind because we do have such a bulk of folks that did receive summer virtual exploration grants that you cannot apply until your reporting is complete. So I kind of referenced this earlier, but just what is eligible in terms of expenses, and we'll also look at this a little bit deeper later. So artistic exchanges, technical based projects, administrative, again, I want to learn about leadership. I want to learn about consensus building. All good. We also, because of the continuation of COVID, we're also fine with hybrid models or completely virtual models. So don't feel just because it says travel grant, we want to give folks permission to be creative with that. If you are not comfortable with physically getting on a plane or physically traveling, you can also request funding for a virtual or a hybrid. Maybe you start with some virtual chats and then you travel maybe later when you feel a little bit more comfortable with that. So really want to welcome people's creativity here. And activities may include, but are not limited to, and these are just examples. I don't want to box anybody in, but these are just examples. Could be, I want to observe somebody, I want to attend a shared rehearsal, I want to attend a, watch somebody walk through a training. I want to have a planning session around different leadership models. Again, I'll just reiterate, and I bolded it here, must be with outside partners. So again, if I'm from XYZ Ensemble and Jill from XYZ Ensemble is living outside of my state, we're still from the same ensemble. So that is not an outside partnership. These things listed here, production expenses, tours, equipment, are not eligible. So I just want to reiterate that again, because we did receive a few of these for the exchange grant. So things like sound equipment, lighting equipment. Again, if it's a rental, that's different, but we're talking about purchases are not eligible. Also, pre-existing workshops or professional development. So conferences are not eligible. Public available trainings are not eligible. This has to be something you're really curating with your partner. So I hope that's clear, because I know some folks usually have questions around that. These are on the website as well. I'm sure I could come up with 20 more examples as well, but these are just some sample activities that we've seen in the past, or just to get your creative juices flowing. All the different things you can do. You can visit a company that you've always been inspired by and you want to get to know them. You can plan for a future project with an artist, saying, oh, we have to get together because we want to have a strategic brainstorm about this project. Again, we could do stuff online. We've now done 4 cycles of virtual granting, and people have been amazingly creative, sharing WhatsApp stuff, TikToks, videos. It's been amazing. So you can definitely do online. Again, cross sector is always exciting. We've seen some really creative stuff with administrative grants in terms of interviewing people in the field. How do you do this? Let me observe this, getting ensembles that knowledge and creativity, working around leadership consensus building. It's been really inspiring. So just some, I'll put this in the chat, just a link, and this is on our website as well, under travel grants. Here are some past recipients. I always recommend folks taking a peek at this because it's just helpful to see who's been awarded and for what in the past. So take a look at that. Another great thing to look at is our sharebacks and our shareback library, and they can be sorted by travel grants as well. Let me put that link. So you can just take a look, get inspired, see what other folks have done. Not to say you have to do these because we're open to lots of different models, but just to give some creativity, get it going. These are the criteria, again, on the website. So I'm not going to go through these line by line, but just a general overview. But just here up top, the bolded, grants are really going to be awarded based on the quality of their relationship building. So how are those, you and your partner really getting to know one another, really deepening that relationship, and the depth of knowledge sharing. So we're really learning, we're really receiving, we're giving, we're receiving, and we're really synthesizing that into something maybe potentially we can share back, right? So we'll have a peer panel, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but we're looking for just, what are your goals? What are you hoping to walk away with from this experience? How did this experience create a relationship or deepen, right? is this project feasible? Looking at the budget, looking at the schedule. Are you trying to cram, 5 weeks of something into 2 days? That type of thing. So feasibility is really important. And then also new ideas, new techniques, inspiration. Is this an opportunity for the applicant to do that? And again, this potential sharing for the field, that's where we talk about the share back. How are you synthesizing the learnings so that way your colleagues and the NET community can learn from it? And of course, our anti-oppression and EDI practices here are super important. And all selection criteria is equally weighted through the review process. So I'm just going to put in the chat here our equity and funding statement in case folks haven't had a chance to look it over. I highly, highly recommend folks reading this before putting in their application. And we also have a new board statement and staff statement called our accountability statement. So both of those are really important. And I would say, look at that language, see what that means to you, and then you can answer the question around equity, which we'll get to. Upon receiving the award, final reporting includes a final narrative report and a financial reporting component. So we would give those specifics to folks on the back end, but I just wanted people to be aware of once you're awarded, you are required to give a narrative report and a financial report, including the share back, which I've talked about. We will withhold 20% of the grant funds until that reporting is complete. And any grantee that fails to submit this report is not eligible for future funding. So we really want to make sure that the reporting is easy and breezy, but that we get it in. Now we're going to move into application. So visiting the how to apply section, I'm going to toss it to Nicole in just a bit. You can preview the narrative questions. I highly, highly recommend folks read it first and then go apply. And you can download the budget template and also information about the confirmation letter, which we'll get into. I cannot reiterate this enough. Please save your work elsewhere. This is still a work in progress application software. And what we saw in the exchange grant is that, maybe something didn't come through exactly perfectly, or maybe we had to write people and say, hey, can you resend this section? It doesn't look like it fully came through. Or people maybe closed out of the application on accident. We don't have access to that. So you have to save it in Word or Google Doc beforehand. And then we recommend cutting and pasting the answers into the application itself. So please do this. I don't want you to feel totally demoralized if somebody clicks off their application. You cannot save your application and come back to it. We also say only use the back and forth buttons in the platform and not your actual browser. So Nicole will demonstrate that in the video. A big question we got last time, so I'm just going to address it here, is character limits. So character limits have been removed from the narrative questions on the application in order for the applicants to focus on the quality of their responses versus spending so much time editing. This decision is in the spirit of our commitment to equity, to allow more applicants to express themselves in a way that they feel best suits them. So this is an equity issue for us. So all applicants are encouraged, of course, to keep their responses simple and direct and answer the questions. Please, please, please be conscious of the panelist time. Do not put a saga novel just because you can. Let's be brief. Let's be brief. We're not expecting long responses. We just wanted to give you all the freedom to answer the questions in a way that you felt was best, instead of worrying about commas and periods and all that, the character limit game that we play, right? So anyway, just wanted to say that out loud, no character limits. All right, Nicole, I'm gonna stop sharing. If you wanna go ahead and show folks your amazing video, I think this is a good time.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Shero and I'm the Finance and Operations Manager at the Network of Ensemble Theaters. Today, I'll be taking you through NET's new and updated grant application portal. While the application questions and requirements are largely the same, some important parts of the website itself have changed, so let's take a look.
Unlike with our previous portal, you cannot save your application on this website and edit it later. If you complete the form and submit it, we will receive your full application. If you navigate away or close the browser, you will lose your work. Therefore, I would suggest that you prepare your answers ahead of time in a separate document and then copy and paste your responses when you feel ready to submit. We'll start by taking a look at the How to Apply page on NET's website. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of one of these documents to store my draft in. For the Google Docs version, I'll just open this, go to File, Make a Copy, and then save this in my personal Google Drive. Here's my draft application with all of my information in it. I have my partner letter and budget PDFs ready to upload, and I'm ready to submit this proposal and be done. First, I'm going to navigate to our new application portal at netten.ensembletheaters.net. Please note that you do not need to log in to submit your application. Simply click on the button to get started. And here's a list of the same warnings that I'm providing in this video for you to keep in mind. The most important thing to remember here is not to use your forward and back buttons on your browser to navigate between the screens. Use these directional buttons here to go back and forth. I'm going to pull up my pre-populated document here and copy and paste my answers. And if you have formatting issues, this is the button to reset your formatting. I recommend trying to keep formatting light, as it will make your proposal easier for the panelists to read and understand.
So you'll see two fields where you'll list your partner and where they're from.
Then I'll attach my partner letters, which have been merged into a single PDF. Next, I'll copy and paste my narrative questions, remembering that if something looks weird, I can highlight that text and press this button to clear all the formatting and start over. Finally, I'm going to upload my completed budget and press the Submit button. When I check my email, I'll have a confirmation from the system letting me know that I saved successfully and I can take a break. And that's it. If you have any questions or difficulties with the new application system, please reach out to NET staff at netten@ensembletheaters.net. Also, I'll put a link in the description for more information about the exchange grants and where to apply.
Great, thank you, Nicole. Yeah, so just want to reiterate what Nicole said. We use the exchange grants as a sample for this video, but it's pretty much the same process, except some of the language is slightly different. So when you go into the application, you'll see the differences, but it's pretty much the exact same process. So we thought this video would still be helpful for you all. And this is on our YouTube, as well as it will be linked up in on our website. Anything else, Nicole, do you want to share about that, or you're good?
I don't think so, but just, yeah, let me know if you have any issues. And I've been anxiously monitoring it. So I'll be sure to reach out to you as soon as I see anything strange going on.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to deep dive and do an overview of the actual narratives, and then we'll open it for questions. So let me just pull over the chat here. Okay, great. So again, it's going to ask you, who are you partnering with? This is a pretty basic question. Who are you collaborating with, and what will you be doing? So just, again, listing who's involved, where are they located, or are you visiting them? Are they visiting you? Not too much detail is needed for the summary of activities, just a couple of sentences, a basic summary. Again, word counts are gone, so I just really encourage folks to be brief and to the point. Then we're going to ask about the rationale. So why this partner? Is this a new relationship? Is this an existing relationship? Again, we're really focused on the relationship building component here. So travel grants are oftentimes a first meeting. So what about this person is drawing you to them? If you've already worked with this person, how is this activity deepening or furthering that relationship? Again, we want that depth. We don't want it to be just this, oh, I've been working with this person the same way, and this is just going to help me continue that. We want a little bit of depth. We want to further deepen. What does your partner do that's so inspiring? What can they teach you? Why is this moment, particularly right now, right? There's a lot going on in the world. Is there a reason this project comes at a good time for you, for your partner, for the organization? So gives you a little opportunity to give some rationale, a little bit more depth than that summary of activities. Then we're going to ask, what are you doing? What are those activities? What will you investigate? What's the kind of your line of inquiry here? Try to be specific. You can mix both artistic and administrative goals here. What are some leading questions you're chewing on during your time together? Or what are some techniques or methods you're exploring in the rehearsal room potentially? What are you hoping to grapple with together? Are there new ideas? Are there new practices? So really kind of giving a little bit more information about what you're going to be doing together. What's the project? What's the there? Then we'll ask for a brief schedule. Again, this does not have to be on Tuesday, blah, 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 from 4 to 5, we're going to be doing this. This is just a brief idea of how you're going to structure your time together so that panelists can get a sense of feasibility and scope. So start months, start dates, kind of the general sense, oh, it's going to be 2 weeks, it's going to be 3 weeks, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, just so we can get a sense of what you're hoping would be the window of time that you're all working together. And then finally, really, what's the outcomes, right? So what's the impact on both yourself and the partner or this relationship? Where is this activities leading? Is there going to be another phase? Like maybe you got additional funding for something else, for another phase for this? Is this going to be transformative for you or for this relationship? And it's okay to say, we're figuring it out. But I think putting some initial thoughts around how you hope to plan this, how you hope to unpack this together would be really helpful for the panelist. And exploration is a totally appropriate outcome in and of itself, but we want to hear how that exploration will serve your practice going forward. So I'm curious about this, and I feel like this time together is really going to enhance the way I look at this particular dance methodology, for example, or the way I work with my ensemble, as an example. And then we do ask about knowledge sharing. So again, going back to the goals of the program around knowledge sharing, what do you hope to learn in terms of methods, practices, knowledge, and how will we kind of be sharing that with the field? So either through the share back, indicate maybe there's a video you're going to create and put that out to your ensemble. Maybe there's a sharing inherently in the project. Again, not required, but we're really trying to challenge folks to think, how are you sharing what you're learning from this process with the field? So looking at previous sharebacks is a great way to start, but we really welcome people's creativity here as well. And then, of course, our equity, diversity, and inclusion question here. I said I was going to reference this at when I mentioned the equity and funding statement and the accountability statement. Here is the question. Really thinking of diversity in a broad sense. We're looking at both the lead applicant embodying these values, but also the partner potentially and the project itself. I think transparency and honesty is always the way to go for these type of questions. If you're struggling with a component in your own personal practice, and this process is going to help you with that, fantastic, put that down. If you are deepening your knowledge around this area, put that down. We're not expecting folks to not be on a continuum, to not be on a journey, but we want to hear from you how you are currently thinking and incorporating these anti-racist practices, anti-oppression practices in your work. And again, it could be this particular project is doing that. The budget form is available on the website, so you can access it there. Just make sure you're providing details. We have a notes column there that you can put as much detail into your heart's content. It's really helpful for the panelists to have a sense of how you reach these numbers. If this project is part of a larger scope, go ahead and put that in there as well so people know, oh, wow, I see how this is really part of a larger continuum. So I'm not going to flash I was going to flash the form, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. If you have any questions, we can stay on the line about that, but really just want to know what the budget is for this project. And then I mentioned this ahead of time, but the confirmation letter. So Nicole kind of flashed this with the video called the partner letter, confirmation letter, but a short signed letter from the partner confirming their participation on the nature and timing of activities. We just want to make sure that folks are not being put into a grant that they don't know about. So again, not a letter from you as the lead applicant, a letter from the partner. And we do need them to be with an English translation if it's in a different language, because we know that some folks are partnering with people internationally. Just a quick glimpse. Again, this is on the website. What's an eligible expense? We already kind of talked about this, but just to really drive it home, there's this handy dandy chart. So you can see here under travel grants, all of the green check marks are eligible expenses and all the red X's are not eligible. So again, different from the exchange grants, production expenses are not eligible. Production tours are not eligible. Any purchases, and again, we already talked about this, pre-existing professional development opportunities. So we're really in this area here. Great. Just a quick look at our panel review process. We will have 3 peer panelists from the field reviewing these applications. They will make funding recommendations to NET based on that criteria I flashed in the goals. And then we always do like a pre-scoring process, and then we get into what's called panel review, where we talk about the higher scoring applications. Each panelist review is going to be shaken up for each cycle. So there's going to be different panelists for the travel, different panelists for exchange, and different panelists for the continuation. That way everybody is coming with fresh eyes. All right. This is again our email address. If anybody has any questions, this will be the time where we're going to have an open time to answer specific questions. We have about 10 minutes or so. If you have any budget questions, you can put stuff in the chat and I can respond, and Nicole and I are here for you. So I just want to thank folks. If you got what you needed, thank you for your interest. We are so thrilled to have you here today, but we're kind of formally concluding and then now opening it up for questions. Give folks a few minutes to formulate questions. Okay, thank you. I'm also happy to flash something back up on the screen if I went too fast or you want me to go back over a narrative question. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Any other, we're going to close out. If we don't have any other questions, you can always email netten@ensembletheaters.net. Again, applications are due April 8th. So please be working on your ideas, and we're here to brainstorm if need be. All right. Thank you all so much. Have a good day.